Hi again everyone. Oy'Nissh, welcome. I am yours truly, Oy'Nissh Grandiece, and in this video I'll be sharing with you what Grandiece means to me. And in the previous video we looked at Oy'Nissh and Glorantine. Now we're going to look at Grandiece, but also draw that connection with the other two as it relates to the food and subsequently the development of the language. So, like in the first video, apparently you'd have noticed that each one of my name, the first, second and third names, all have capital letter in the middle. And the derivative from that have the common. And apparently the capital tend to be the names, and then the lowercase tend to be related to the food. It's no difference in terms of this one. So Grandiece means resurrection of life. And it comes from the idea that as a Christian I look forward to the second coming of Jesus Christ. Probably by then I'll be dead. If I'm not dead by then when Jesus comes, that's a plus. But if I die then I'll be happy to know that there's provision made for me. But not only for me only, but for anyone who believe in Him will have that same privilege of being resurrected to immortality, to be with Him forever, to live in peace and harmony as it was intended when it was created, when we were created, or our forefathers were created. So for me, Grandiece with a capital D in the middle reminds me of this resurrection. And it means that each day I can live with that hope that things are going to be better. So my first name is Oy'Nissh, means feeder of the people. So I'm busy working, being me, doing what I do. And Glorantine with a capital T means in season with God, meaning that yes, during the journey things changes, and you know, you have your ups and downs in life, different season, different experience. However, when all is said and done, my hope is to be with Jesus when He comes. So each day I get that additional drive to move forward, never giving up, always pressing forward, to be better, to be more efficient, to give back to life, to give back to my community, to give back to my society, to do my best. Because at the end of the day, I won't be around, because we all die at some stage. You know, some of us are fortunate to live to 100, some not. But each time we get life, each day we get life, we appreciate it. But the ultimate for me is to be with Jesus when He comes. And I think that's reassuring for me, because it's hard to stand by and see all that suffering in the world. And you know, we always wanting to ask God why this is happening. But I'm looking forward to the time when He'll be able to explain it to me. But till then, be watchful and be ready, but occupy until He comes. So I'm looking forward to be resurrected with Him. Now, with a lowercase, it means seasonal Oy'Nissh menus and recipes that aid in the development, in the improvement of health and quality of life. That is seasonal Oy'Nissh menus and recipes that aid in the improvement of health and quality of life. In essence, it's still reflecting that idea of resurrection, that as we live healthy, as we eat healthy, I'm not saying that food is the only means of staying healthy. There's exercise, there's getting enough rest, there's keeping a mental faculty intact, there's this idea about social interaction with family, friends. All these things are important, but there's also the spiritual aspect where we're in tune with God. So food isn't the only thing, but because we're looking at food in the context here, in terms of Oy'Nissh, we're saying that while with a capital D, Grandiece means resurrection of life, as in looking forward to the coming of Jesus, we can still experience partial resurrection of life in terms of diet when we start to eat seasonal. But the idea is that Oy'Nissh food already start going down that trend, that it's promoting the consumption of seasonal stuff, and it's more focusing on fruit and vegetable consumption in terms of other food. By eating more fruit and veg, it can help us to improve life. Now, we have to take into consideration that eating the fruit and vegetable raw is the ultimate. There's no question about that. So Oy'Nissh is not replacing that concept, but we still need fruit and veg in other aspects other than eating it raw. Because you know that many people, probably yourself, might not eat certain fruit and veg raw. And there are certain fruit and vegetables that need to be cooked anyway, so it just depends on the time. So I'm just talking on the context that no, this condiment is now adding fruit and vegetable to the diet by adding it to different food products. Some, obviously, when you cook it, you lose the vitamin and the vitamin content and so forth. But it's a secondary means of health promotion. Now, Grandiece aids in that. Why? Because Oy'Nissh is the condiment, but also the language itself. Oy'Nissh go on something as it's recommended by Glorantine. You look at the seasonal chart, it tells you that these things are in season. And this is the Oy'Nissh name for it. So when you write the recipe, that's the Oy'Nissh name for it. The fruit or veg, that's on health promotion from that locality. But then, you see, we have a problem here because now we've got the condiment going on, say, meat. Are the condiment, are the salt or the oils going on vegetable? What if then you've got the condiment in the form of sauces going into desserts? So what the idea is, how do you create a classification system to sort of distinguish what is what? Because then everything will be done haphazardly. I would imagine this is what you get in terms of jerk. You've got jerk chicken, you've got jerk fish and so forth, but it doesn't address a lot more stuff. For example, it doesn't address seasonality, it doesn't address the idea of texture, it doesn't address the idea is, okay, what if you've got one fruit in the condiment and health promotion and you're using another fruit product that the condiment won't go on, but that fruit or veg is still on health promotion, what would you call it? This is where Grandiece becomes handy, because now Grandiece takes the condiment which make a particular product per se, or getting ready to make a particular product. Glorantine that tells you what's in season and how you would term it in terms of its seasonality and maybe what you'd call vegetable, fruit and vegetable. So you've got Oy'Nissh, the food and the language developing, you have the seasonality, but then the important part of Grandiece is it put everything into context by putting them into classes. So instead of having a long name with the recipe, Grandiece shortened it by putting them into classes. So the recipes into classes and then the menus into classes and make them very short. So it means that you now have recipes with few words that explain many things. And this is significant because now, with this aspect of it, it means that you're putting together different food products in such a way that it improves your health. But you do so seasonally, that in December, this product is called this, but when you move into the next season, it is called that. And this is where Grandiece is important. It gives everything a classification structure. I'm not saying you don't have a classification structure for Oy'Nissh, you do. But that's mainly just for the condiment, how you would class the condiment. But with Oy'Nissh, the food itself, it doesn't explain in terms of how you're going, when you start to combine various food together, because not all food you put Oy'Nissh products on. No, some food will probably stay simple. But what would you call them if you've got, for example, an Oy'Nissh chicken with roast potato and roast carrot, as opposed to Oy'Nissh chicken with rice and plantain? It becomes a challenge. But again, when you come to a menu, a full menu, what if you've got on a health promotion broccoli, and broccoli is in the bread, or broccoli is on the vegan product, but then it's mixed with rice, but then you have dessert that's also on a health promotion because maybe in the cake there's an Oy'Nissh sauce. It becomes difficult if you're going to just depend on the Oy'Nissh condiment on the product, because now you're dealing with a bigger context, not just a small recipe. You're dealing with a menu in terms of a starter and main meal and dessert. And because of Grandiece, it's able now to put all this into context and structure it into the class. So you might get 2, 3, 4 words, probably most 4, maybe 5 words that describe an entire menu that include your soup, your with bread, if the bread is an Oy'Nissh bread, or it's the soup that's an Oy'Nissh soup, and the main meal where this product is on health promotion but this isn't on health promotion, and the sauce or marinade is on this and not on that. Then you come to the dessert where you've got the Oy'Nissh ice cream where this fruit is on health promotion but that is whatever is not on health promotion. Grandiece put everything into context and structured it into a class and make it simple. So there is a pattern wherein, okay, as long as it's got rice and peas and this is unified, it goes into this class. If all this is put together and served with this particular juice, it's in this class. And with that type of pattern, then Oy'Nissh food can now have a seasonality that governs it, but also a classification system to put it in structure that in the future, when this new Jamaican food is used in restaurant, it's pretty straightforward. You just call a recipe 3 or 4 words the most, and it sort of encapsulates all the, not the ingredients, all the different recipes that put everything together. And I know generally when you go to a restaurant, you might have a menu, you have 3-course meal, and in some cases 4 courses. And the petit 4 at the end for nibbles. You might get mousse bouche before you start, all these stuff, but it's all compartmentalized and it's a big menu. And trust me, it's nice. Sometimes you go to a restaurant and, you know, especially your friends, you want to sit back and you go through the list. However, I'm not saying I'm here to change anything that's happening, no. It works, a lot of stuff works, but in terms of Oy'Nissh, when we're talking about promoting fruit and vegetable, saying that this particular fruit or vegetable is on health promotion, and then these things start to go into products and the names start to change altogether, it needs a different structure. And this is where now Grandiece becomes handy, because it's limiting, instead of having a long sheet of stuff that gives you a lot of different explanation for stuff, you might have 4 to 5 words that explain everything. Because in Oy'Nissh, working with Grandiece, the classification system put them together. So what it means now, you'll have Oy'Nissh the food, Glorantine the seasonal chart that give an indication as to what fruit and vegetables in season and should be on health promotion. And then you start getting ready to make products from these fruit and vegetables and start to write them in Oy'Nissh names. But once you start to get more complex, when the menus and recipes start to get big, They need a different structure now to put things into perspective and make it simplified. And that's where Grandiece comes in. So, as time goes by and Oy'Nissh start to develop, you start to realize that, as I said, it's not like jerk wherein you can just maybe cheat and say, okay, I am going to not use Scotch bonnet and use another pepper, and maybe the person is none the wiser, especially for people who don't know jerk. And whatever you tell them is jerk, they believe that's what jerk is. So they can even not put pimento and put something else. And people just accept that is jerk. You see, it's easy to culturally appropriate it that way. And that's what's happening. And many Jamaicans are angered by that. However, with Oy'Nissh, and as it developed, firstly, all of Oy'Nissh is governed by the language. That's for sure, as it's developing. Still early stage. But Oy'Nissh food is directly linked with the seasonal chart called Glorantine, which is also directly linked with the entire menu and recipe classification system under the Grandiece menu, which is also linked with Oy'Nissh. So it's like a triangle. But the important thing is, remember I said earlier on, my name is Oy'Nissh, but my name is also Grandiece. I'm looking forward to be resurrected when Jesus comes, but also know, as I look at food, I'm thinking of working with food, not for myself, but also for my community, that will help to give a better quality of life outcome in terms of the health promotion of fruit and vegetable. That's the specialty of this menu, to promote fruit and vegetable consumption. So it doesn't take away from your meat and your vegan products, because those you'll probably have anyway. But it's the idea of going back to seasonality. Yes, you might have your avocado imported to the UK or to Scotland. Yes, you might have certain product, but do we make use of what's here already? That's what Oy'Nissh is about, going back to the seasons. But this time, instead of plain bread being plain bread, the bread can become Oy'Nissh bread, because now you can add different vegetables. You see, it's not unusual in any culture to find people putting vegetable or even fruit in bread. Of course, you've got people who have done that before, but have you ever considered, have they put seasonality to it, where they said, okay, each month, each week, or each season, the bread is going to change according to the season, and it will be given that name, and the recipe will be given that name, and if it's included in a menu, it will be given that name. That's where Oy'Nissh becomes different from anything that exists in the world, because it's specifically telling you that from day one, fruit and vegetable is on health promotion seasonally, and it's focusing on the local products. So by the time it reaches to menu stage, in its more complex form, Grandiece put it in a classification structure, because from day one, the focus is on promoting fruit and veg. It becomes the feature in all the dishes. It combines with the proteins, it combines with the starches and other stuff. But the idea is, Grandiece with a common D becomes that, like, it's like that university for primary school kids. By the time they grow up and things become more complex and they need more structure and order in a particular subject area to understand and so forth, the university is now a bigger platform now that put things into structure, more distinguishable. And it's strange, because you go to we all have been to basic school, and you see things are pretty basic, and then you go to primary school, which are a little bit more organized, and then you go to high school, you start to see the subjects all separated. But then you go to university. This time you're not only studying, for example, you might study chemistry in high school, but when you go to university, you're not just studying chemistry. Which chemistry? Is it relating to those chemical engineer, or is it pure chemistry that you're going to do teaching with, our different aspects of chemistry. So now you start to see it's classified. You're not just dealing with basic stuff now. It's all structured. That's what Grandiece add to the Oy'Nissh food. But also, I am Grandiece, and I'm sharing with you what I had to do when I started working with Oy'Nissh food. It was difficult because I started doing jerk, strangely enough. And the funny story is, okay, so I wanted to promote fruit and vegetable consumption. So when I was at university, I was thinking, I need a method to do so. And then I said, oh, jerk would be the best because then you had the marinating system. So I said, that could be like the transportation means by which I can use to, at least indirectly start to get people used to the idea of eating fruit and veg. But I was also thinking about myself to get used to eating more British fruit and veg that I used to ignore. However, so I said I'd go online because then I was working with various fruit and vegetables because it's about fruit and vegetable promotion, yes, health promotion. So I started working with fruit and vegetables, and lo and behold, I remember I ended up with 31 marinades. And I was looking at a way to put structure to it because I had the citruses and I had exotic fruits and I had root vegetables. I had different stuff and I was all over the place. And I said, okay, I'm doing jerk marinade and sauce, mainly marinades. And I said, I'm going to go online and check the Jamaican archive system, whatever I can get access to see how Jamaica would classify jerk in terms of the marinade system. So, lo and behold, to my surprise, probably it exists in the University of the West Indies or so forth, but just ordinary online, I couldn't find a classification system. So there was no special name given to the citruses. What if you have special jerk marinades that have to do with the citruses or with certain exotic fruits? There was no order or structure to say this is what I call it or that's what I call it. My impression once I finished doing my little research with what was available online at the time is just one big jerk system. Yes, jerk, chicken, jerk, fish, but it never specified in terms of when you start to work with a lot of fruit and veg in jerk. Because when jerk was created, health promotion was not the ethos. And that's why jerk it's what it is. Does it mean that it's a bad stuff? No. It's got its own strength, and as you can tell, it's a global stuff. But in terms of health promotion, that's where it falls down. It cannot do health promotion as Oy'Nissh can because it's not built on a health promotion model from day one. So I struggled. That's when I started trying to put order and structure. This is where the idea of Grandiece started to come about because I'm now thinking about I need to put structure to it for myself because I had no one to help me. So the exotic fruits, I'll give them, I just started making up names. I was laughing at the time because, well, no one else would have done it, so I said I'll do it myself. So the exotic fruits, I'll call them this. The citrus fruits, I'll call that. These type of vegetables, I'll call this. And I just give them weird names, and I laughed at the time. But little did I know that it was leading up to this moment where actually, with all these new words and classification system and structure, might as well have put it in a language order, and that's why Oy'Nissh, the language, exists today. So by the time it becomes more complex, Grandiece had to be created now to deal with recipe development and menu, because once you start to get more complex, once you start to put many food groups together, it's not easy to call it Oy'Nissh anymore because it would be a very long name. So Grandiece now compounds everything by putting them into different classes that makes it simpler. So Oy'Nissh need three things as a food to be called Oy'Nissh. Firstly, if you're going to call Oy'Nissh food, you need the seasoning, the condiments and so forth. You have to have it. At the moment, Jamaican Oy'Nissh Ltd is the only one that have license to produce it. So that's the start. Secondly, you need the seasonal chart. Oh, it's not here. You need the seasonal chart called Glorantine, because not only does it work with seasonality, because you have many seasonal chart that does that, but it's the only one that deals with Oy'Nissh language and able to translate it. Obviously, because I'm the one doing the translation, because I'm the one who have to create it anyway, so that's the primary source and it works hand in hand. Plus, Grandiece, Glorantine have the equation that I use now in how to start combining single Oy'Nissh products and other fruit and veg that's on health promotion that haven't been Oy'nified. But also, if they are also Oy'nified, what would you call them? Or if they are out of season, what would you call them? Or if they were frozen and then used out of season, what would you call them? Glorantine deals with that. No, it had that level of complexity in it, a bigger structure to harness all that Oy'Nissh have to offer, all that Glorantine have to offer, and put it in a simple context that is easy for the public to use. And Grandiece is like the university that make it, yes, it seem more complex, but it put everything into smaller structures. So Oy'Nissh food exists on three things: the condiments that triggers everything, the seasonal chart, but also Grandiece that deals with menu development and recipe development for Oy'Nissh food, and it's the only system that deals with that. But also, all three are my names, and I'm giving you myself. And I'm hoping that as time goes by, I'm able to actually benefit my community or wherever I go in the world, because you know what? We're all in this together, you know. We all have to help build each other up. And we know things will get worse in world events. Climate change with climate change, a lot of things are been happening. Then you have terrorism, you've got health problem, then you've got COVID, and so many stuff happening. But we can start making small steps with what we can do. So in my part, I'm working on food development. This is a new Jamaican stuff, and I start with Oy'Nissh, with Glorantine to give the seasonality, and Grandiece act as a university to class everything, menus and recipes, into its respective place that the public now can make sense of a bigger equation in terms of a smaller one. Thank you.